Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Master of None here. Finally, after 6 or 7 years since that initial trailer, we are getting our hands on this game and I'm so excited. You have probably seen the title, I'm talking about Lost Ark. Depending on when I'm exactly releasing this video, the closed beta for the Western release is currently ongoing or has just ended. With the release of the game actually being around the corner and it not just being a pipe dream, I want to take the opportunity to talk to you guys about why I'm so excited for this game. I want to preface this video with the fact that I have very little knowledge about the game and I'm purposefully trying to keep it that way. Even for the beta, I didn't play much further than the initial tutorial, because I want to go in as blind as possible and discover everything for myself. It's just how I get the most enjoyment out of a new MMO. If the game ends up sticking around for me, I will have plenty of time to optimize the fun out of it. With that being said, let's get right into it. Number 5. A different perspective. This might seem a bit silly, but after having played hundreds or thousands of hours of Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft and The Elder Scrolls Online, I'm really excited to get to play an MMO with a different camera perspective. Even though the combat and gameplay of the games I just mentioned differ quite a bit from each other, Lost Ark gives me what I've always wanted, an ARPG like Diablo or Wolcen, but in an MMO package. The first MMO that I've played as a kid was RuneScape, and although Lost Ark seems to be nothing like RuneScape, it still reminds me of those times just because of the camera perspective. I'm incredibly excited to see how this different perspective is going to translate into the more traditional MMO features like dungeons and raids. Number 4. Familiar concepts. If you are a returning viewer on this channel, you will know that my main MMO for years has been Guild Wars 2. And even with just a couple hours into the beta of Lost Ark and the limited information I have about the game, there are immediately a couple design concepts that are very familiar to me. One of them being that PvP is equalized and gear doesn't matter there. This is always a hot topic amongst MMO players, but everyone being equal for PvP has absolutely my preference. In small scale battles or arenas, I don't want to win or lose because my gear is better or worse, but because I outplayed someone or got outplayed. It's exactly how Guild Wars 2 handles it as well in its structured PvP game mode. Another concept that caught my eye is there doesn't seem to be a holy trinity of tank, healer and DPS. Instead, you just have support classes that still need to do damage like Paladin or Bard, and damage dealers. It's how Guild Wars 2 originally had launched, but over the course of 9 years, they started backtracking and opening up the possibilities for much more support or healing oriented classes. To be honest, I like both approaches and both have their pros and cons. Not having a holy trinity often leads to much more active gameplay, because you don't have a tank that takes all the damage or a pure healer that will just heal any mistake you make. Instead, everyone needs to pay attention to the same things in a fight. On the other hand, a trinity can lead to more varied gameplay styles and can help the feeling that you are fulfilling a vital part in a group. Without dedicated roles, the lines get much more blurry and you might not feel as if you can have the same amount of impact on the success of your group. In the end, I just want to say that not having a holy trinity won't bother me personally. It all comes down to how the content itself is designed, and I'm excited to find that out. Number 3. Alt friendliness. Variety is the spice of life. Another thing that spices up my life is people helping this channel grow. So if you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button. My favorite part about any MMO is learning and discovering new classes. I'm thrilled to see that Lost Ark does not only seem to be alt friendly, but actually encourages making new characters. Smilegate has regularly released new classes since the official release in Korea. And from the short glimpse that I got from the beta, there are a few account-bound features like account levels. I'm very interested to know what else is account-bound, so if you are knowledgeable about the game, let me know in the comments below. The classes themselves are very different from each other. From the Western-inspired gunslinger to the traditional paladin or the very Asian-style martial artist or gun lancers, Lost Ark seems to have it all. I was sad to see that the beta didn't have the classes I was interested in the most, namely the dude with the giant hammer or the card magician. Nonetheless, I spent about 6 hours just in the little class trial area, trying to figure out what class I want to play on release. This is exactly the feeling that I want from a new game. Choosing a starting class is both the most agonizing and exciting part of the game for me. I'm sure that I only got a little taste of how everything will play at max level. Nonetheless, they all felt great and seemed to offer a different gameplay experience, which brings me to number 2, the combat. Back when I saw that original trailer 6 or so years ago, the thing that caught my eye the most is how extremely satisfying and polished the combat looked. Having played the beta, I can happily report that it plays even better than it looks. Everything just flows into each other nicely, the skills look amazing and the impacts are so insanely satisfying. Number 2 and 3 definitely play off each other. By having all the skills look and feel so good, I want to play it all. I've also heard that endgame can be quite challenging, which is amazing. My favorite part about Diablo or Wolcen is the beginning part, when you aren't super powerful yet and increase the difficulty nonetheless, and all of a sudden you have to pay attention to the enemies and dodge certain attacks. It just leads to more engaging gameplay and keeps me interested for much longer. Another part of what makes the Lost Ark combat feel so great are the different skill types. You have regular instant cast skills, combo skills which you can press a couple times in a row in a short time frame, aim skills, and hold down skills for big and meaty hits. Those were definitely my favorite, and some of them even had an additional mechanic where you had to let go of the skill at the right time for the most effect. The combat is arguably one of the most important things to me, especially since the English voice acting was absolutely terrible and the story started off really bland. In that way, it reminded me a lot of Monster Hunter World. Like, yeah, there is a story there, but no one is paying attention to it, and it only serves as a way to introduce you to new monsters and areas. However, maybe I'm wrong about the Lost Ark story and it gets more interesting over time. But in that regard, it didn't make a very good first impression on me. So if combat is so important and has me so excited, what thing can top that? Number 1. No growing pains. MMOs are huge and complex games, and because of this, it's not unheard of that a new MMO releases unfinished, buggy, or with no endgame. Just look at New World as the newest example. I'm pretty confident that that game can turn into something beautiful, but it will take some time to get there. I don't have the same reservations with Lost Ark. The game released 3 years ago in Korea and has already proved itself. The only thing left to figure out is if the game is something for me. I won't be able to answer that question until I have played the game for a couple weeks when it finally releases in the West, but it gives me confidence that the game is so popular in other regions and seems to get more and more content. We basically get to skip all the growing pains and get to jump right into the good stuff. With the game being out for so long already, it does come with a couple of drawbacks. Mainly, there is this feeling of everything being already solved and all the mystery already gone. However, if I'm honest with myself, nowadays even on brand new launches, this mystery can already be missing. Again, I'm pointing towards New World and the millions of guides that existed for that game before the actual release. If I want to keep some of that discovery, I just have to be strong and try to avoid as many guides about the game as possible. This approach is certainly not for everyone, and I get that a huge part of the MMO population will just want to know everything from the beginning, level up as fast as possible and be as efficient as you can from day one. I, on the other hand, want to get lost, make mistakes, get overwhelmed by all the menus, figure out mechanics, and discover a new world. I was disappointed when Amazon pushed the release date for Lost Ark to early 2020, and I hope that there will be at least a couple weeks between the Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons expansion and the Lost Ark release. Otherwise, I can basically say goodbye to my social life, have to take days off from work, and the 24 hours in a day will probably still not be enough time to get through everything. Let me ask the same question back to you. What gets you the most excited about Lost Ark? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.